You've been lied to about Napalm Burst. Every other content creator out there is sleeping on what might be the highest theoretical DPS increase in the entire game. While everybody's obsessing over Cryo Freeze, they're completely missing crucial information about Napalm Burst that nobody is talking about. What if I told you that Napalm Burst isn't just that fire ammo mod, but a complex damage dealing system with a theoretical 31.8% sustained DPS increase, over 10 times what Cryo Freeze offers. No other Zombies creator has discovered this, let alone broken down the exact mechanics and hidden potential that could completely change your loadout strategy. Now we'll cover the exact mechanics, practical applications, and some hidden behaviors that nobody's talking about. Let's get into it. Now, as always, I test with precision. So if there's a variance of above about 5 to 6% of my data points, I always retest until I can confirm the true values. For Napalm Burst specifically, this meant tracking proc rates across different rounds and gameplay styles to ensure consistency. And after completing our Cryo Freeze testing, I actually almost didn't bother testing any other ammo mods because Cryo Freeze was just that good. We were literally all shocked. And if you want to be able to see that video, there's gonna be a pin up and above and down in the description below as well. But here we are with Napalm Burst, and we've got some interesting stats to report. At its core, Napalm Burst is exactly what Treyarch describes: bullets that deal fire damage with a chance to apply a burn effect on normal and special enemies, dealing damage over time. So the ammo mod works exactly as intended, but there are some nuances worth understanding. Now, Napalm Burst operates on a 15-second cooldown timer. So once it procs, you need to wait about 15 seconds before it can trigger again. This is very important to remember when planning any of your engagements with the zombies and your weapons and your build, especially in the higher rounds. The burn effect is where things get interesting. When testing on round 3 zombies, which all have 225 health, I noticed that each tick was doing exactly 45 damage. And it was actually kind of exciting because that initially had me thinking, ain't no way it's doing double my bullet damage. But after doing math, 45 out of 225, it became clear that each tick deals precisely about 20% of a zombie's health. The Napalm Burst ticks occur at a rate of about 1 per second, with a total of 5 ticks per burn effect. So that means that a full burn deals 100% of a zombie's health over 5 seconds, which is enough to kill a normal zombie if they take all ticks. However, there's a very important caveat to that. If your bullet triggered the effect, you actually lose 1 tick of damage. This isn't really losing damage per se though, since your bullet already did the damage, but it means you'll only get 4 additional ticks instead of 5. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Napalm Burst deals significantly different damage depending on the enemy type. So for normal zombies, each damage per tick is about 20% of the zombie's health, 5 ticks total, 1 per second. Total damage is about 100% of a zombie's health, right? A full kill will happen if you do end up landing that on them. But then we've got like specials as well. Like let's say doppelguys or your mimics or anything. So the damage per tick is only 2% of the special's health. 5 ticks total, right? That's going to give you a total damage of 10% of a special's health. Now to verify this, I tested this on doppelguys at round 6. Each tick did exactly 75 damage, which corresponded to about 3 frames of health bar movement. And when diving in, zooming in, and counting all the rest of that kind of stuff you can see on the screen, the total health bar of the frames was 48 frames, equated to approximately 3,600 HP. This ultimately confirmed that 2% damage per tick. So that 3 out of 48 total frames equals 2%. Now, manglers who are weak to fire, damage per tick is 3.5% of a mangler's health. So that total damage is going to be about 17.5% of a mangler's health after a full 5 ticks. Now, this represents a 1.75x or 75% damage multiplier compared to the other specials. Now, I confirmed this at round 11, where each tick did 187 damage to a mangler, moving its health bar by about 5 frames with approximately 135 frames. Again, all the same stuff. 5,049 HP per set of frames. This worked out to be about 3.7% damage tick, which we rounded to 3.5 just for simplicity's sake. Now, this damage profile explains why Napalm Burst feels particularly effective against Manglers. You're getting a 75% damage boost on each tick compared to the other specials. While that 17.5% total health damage might not sound impressive, remember, this is passive damage happening while you continue to shoot, essentially giving you a free 17.5% damage boost on any Mangler or any enemy that's already vulnerable to fire. Every time Napalm Burst activates, you get also +5 essence per effect. Now, this isn't game changing, but it does start to add up over time and really kind of contributes to your overall essence economy. Now, before we move on, I need to clarify something extremely important that I think many players miss about Napalm Burst. Like, they understand, but I want to make it very clear. There are two completely different damage bonuses at work. One, there's the burn effect over time, which we just covered. And then two, there is an immediate bullet damage boost against fire weak enemies. This second effect is completely separate from the burn ticks and applies to every bullet that hits enemies that are weak to fires, like Manglers, Abominations, when your weapon has Napalm Burst equipped, even when the burn effect doesn't proc. Now, when testing against Manglers, I found the base damage with no MMOD, there was 54 damage per bullet. With Napalm Burst equipped, there was 81 damage per bullet. So that's literally a flat 50% damage increase on every shot, not just when the burn effect procs. This damage multiplier gets even better when you pair it with Elemental Pop perk and you also use the Vulnerable Being augment. So the damage with Napalm Burst and Vulnerable Being was 94 damage per bullet. That's literally, again, a 75% increase from base damage, but that regular 15% increase on top of Napalm Burst boost. Now, this hidden damage bonus is why Napalm Burst feels so sweet against certain enemies, even when you don't see the burn effect triggering. You're just getting a constant significant damage boost against those enemies that are just very weak to fire just by having it equipped. Now, to be very crystal clear, this is entirely separate from the burn damage over time. You get this bullet damage boost every single shot against those fire weak enemies. And then occasionally you get the burn effect on top of that. For Liberty Falls, where there's Manglers and Abominations, this makes Napalm Burst, the only choice if you never even trigger the burn effect at all. Now, perhaps I think the most underappreciated aspect of Napalm Burst is its ability to spread. When a zombie is affected by that burn, there's an initial flare-up that can spread to other zombies. Through careful testing, we confirmed that this spread has a limited radius that can affect a maximum of 3 zombies total, including that initial zombie that was burned. Now, this actually is very crucial information that changes how you should position yourself with Napalm Burst. Funneling zombies through small, skinny, or narrow passageways before triggering an effect maximizes that potential, as well as you can effectively triple your damage output from a single proc. Now, during our testing, we also noticed the spread of zombies die at slightly different times. And this is just happening because the secondary zombies get the effect applied slightly after the initial target, which is kind of cool because it creates like a staggered death effect that can really help with crowd control. So this now is where we need to talk about a surprising finding from our extensive testing. Napalm Burst has a massive theoretical DPS potential that most players never realize or even benefit from. So let me walk you through what I discovered at round 31 testing. So in a controlled environment with 102 zombies on round 31, each with 11,250 HP, I ended up counting 7 Napalm Burst procs that gave me that total 21 total zombies affected. So that's about 20.5% of all zombies. With total zombie health of upwards of past 1.148 million HP, with a weapon damage per shot of 3,600 damage per shot, total shots fired in order to kill all the zombies will be 319, meaning that it's an average of about 4 shots per zombie. And the crazy awesome thing is that we're going to save 77 shots through Napalm Burst effects. Now, the math gets interesting. So bear with me. Those 7 Napalm Burst procs affecting 21 zombies potentially saved me 77 shots. At 3,600 damage per shot, that's 871,200 damage dealt by the ammo mod essentially and those shots, or 25% of the total potential damage. Working through all the calculations, including the fire rate of about two rounds per second, my testing showed that under ideal conditions, Napalm Burst could provide a theoretical 31.8% sustained DPS increase. It's massive compared to the roughly 3% sustained DPS boost we calculated for Cryo Freeze. But here is the big catch, and it's honestly a big one. In actual gameplay, you're rarely getting the full benefit. Why? Because you continue firing at zombies even after they're burned. So consider this. A zombie gets hit by Napalm Burst and starts burning. Each tick deals 20% damage every second for 5 seconds, potentially killing that zombie. But what do we all continue to do? We keep shooting. In that 1 second gap between burns, you'll likely shoot and kill that zombie before the next burn effect can even happen. More so can fully work its magic. Now, you might get one tick in, right? That additional 20% damage initially while shooting at the zombie, effectively wasting the other 80% of the potential burn damage. The same is going to apply to the nearby zombies that catch fire too, because they all have to be so close to that initial zombie that you're likely also killing them with bullets too before they can burn and before the Napalm Burst can do its full job. So this means in practical gameplay, breaking it all the way down, you're probably only getting about a 2% actual DPS from Napalm Burst, which is still a far cry from that theoretical 31.8% that we calculated. I think this disconnect between theoretical and practical benefits explains why Cryo Freeze feels more effective despite having a lower theoretical DPS increase. With Cryo Freeze, the primary benefit, just slowing and freezing zombies, is it's felt immediately and can't be wasted by continuing to shoot. So let's go ahead and talk about the proc chance, because the proc chance for Napalm Burst varies significantly based on round number and gameplay style. Now, we tested this across multiple scenarios. In round 10 with directed gameplay, where we specifically were trying to proc the effect. With regular gameplay, it yielded approximately 3 procs per round and only 1 affected zombie per proc, so a total of 3. But then in speed gameplay, where I run around for a while, get all the zombies to all spawn in, then that ended up dropping down to 1 proc per round, though each proc still affected around 3 zombies because they're all grouped. Now, by round 31 with standard gameplay, I was able to observe around that 7 procs per round. So this increase makes sense as you're encountering and shooting more zombies in higher rounds. And then also when facing bosses, we run into a pretty bad testing challenge. Unlike with normal zombies where the game clearly displays enemy ignited, there's no special notification for when a boss or a special enemy gets burned. You just have to visually watch for the effect on them. Now, after extensive testing and collaboration with our Discord theory crafting community, we actually uncovered something major about Napalm Burst's interaction with specials. Initially, finding consistent data was pretty challenging. I was testing on Liberty Falls using different weapons, namely like the compact against manglers up to around like 35. But even then, the visibility in higher rounds made accurate counting just pretty much almost nearly impossible. But the breakthrough came when we discovered some Season 1 patch notes for Shadow Rift that revealed something very important. Ammo mods have different activation rates for normal enemies versus specials and then also elites. And for Shadow Rift, the patch notes specifically mentioned increasing special enemy activation from 5% to 7%. Shout out to you, Cameron. Through our testing, we've determined that proc rates vary across different ammo mods. And according to the Season 1 patch notes for Shadow Rift, its proc rate was increased from 15% to 20% for normal zombies. However, based on my testing, we believe Napalm Burst operates with a higher base proc rate of around 25% on normal zombies. This is why you'll notice Napalm Burst triggering more frequently than some of the other ammo mods when out on cooldown. This led us to a systematic testing approach by isolating the mangler, so killing all the zombies first, and then using only our secondary weapon with the different ammo mods, we were able to determine that the most ammo mods proc on specials at approximately 1 out of 3 of their normal zombie proc rate, or 30% of the normal zombie proc rate. But here's where things get still even more interesting. Napalm Burst also showed a significantly higher proc rate on specials than other ammo mods as well. While most ammo mods seem to proc about 30% of the time on isolated specials when not on cooldown, Napalm Burst consistently showed close to a 50% proc rate. Now, we confirmed this wasn't just a Mangler specific interaction by testing the same exact method on Doppelgas during the ritual at the tomb. And these results were very consistent. Napalm Burst procs just as often on them as on Manglers, suggesting that it has a natural affinity for special enemies. So my conclusion on that is that Treyarch has programmed Napalm Burst's special proc rate to be half or 50% of the normal zombie proc rate, rather than 1 out of 3 ratio used for other ammo mods. This means if you're only targeting specials with your Napalm Burst weapon, so after clearing other zombies, or you pull out your other weapon and only shoot that special, you'll maintain that favorable 50% ratio. In practical terms, this gives Napalm Burst roughly a 12.5% chance to proc on specials, which is significantly higher than other ammo mods. Now, let's clear up some misconceptions or some confusion about Napalm Burst. The biggest misconception is that it can't affect special enemies without an augment, which our test confirms that specials can indeed be burned by base Napalm Burst, making it more versatile than I think a lot of players realize. Another misunderstanding relates to the initial burn damage. There is no damage boost on the initial burn at base. It's consistent across all affected zombies, whether they're the primary target or they were just caught in that flare up. Many players also don't realize that if you shoot a zombie that's already burning, you're not wasting your shot. That zombie can still spread the effect to others nearby, even if it can't be burned again due to the cooldown. So let's talk about some practical applications and strategies, because I think Napalm Burst shines in a few different scenarios. 1, crowd control. That spread effect is going to make it excellent for dealing with tightly packed hordes. So we found that positioning is very crucial. If you can funnel zombies through doorways or hallways, a single proc can affect the most number of targets that way. For resource efficiency, that fire effect continues to deal damage even after you stop shooting, making it kind of like good for ammo in the higher rounds. Now, obviously, like you can shoot a zombie, and if you really like think about it, you can shoot the zombie, let them start to burn, and just turn and shoot other zombies to save on rounds. So Napalm Burst proves to be a pretty solid mid-tier ammo mod, even without augments. Its strength lies in consistent damage over time and group damage potential rather than just burn or burst damage. Plus, for players who prefer methodical clearing and resource efficiency over raw DPS, Napalm Burst is going to be a compelling option for you. The fire damage ticks are especially valuable against tankier enemies and higher rounds where every percentage of health matters. Combined with its ability to affect specials and spread to nearby targets, Napalm Burst deserves a lot more recognition closer to that meta. Now, is it better than Cryo Freeze? From our testing so far, probably not. It's going to be really hard to dethrone Cryo Freeze. As we said at the beginning of stream from our last one, there's honestly no reason to run anything other than Cryo Freeze in a game, especially with liquid nitrogen. But Napalm Burst does offer a different playstyle that I think some people might prefer, particularly for its visual satisfaction and then also the damage over time approach. Now, that's everything for base Napalm Burst ammo mod. Look out for our upcoming video where we're going to break down each of the augments and how they transform Napalm Burst into an even more devastating tool in your zombie slaying builds. Now, if you do want to join our Theory Crafting community, the Discord is in the description. And if you haven't checked out my double tap deep dive yet, you are missing out. Check out this video. And with that, guys, have a beautiful goddamn day, and I'll see you in the next deep dive.